The diamond engagement ring, the tradition you were taught is timeless, is roughly 80 years old. It wasn't handed down through centuries of romance. A single company, sitting on a surplus of nearly worthless stones, hired an ad agency to invent what true love is supposed to look like. To understand how they pulled it off, you first need to see what diamonds meant before anyone linked them to love. For nearly 2,000 years, the world's entire supply of gem-quality diamonds came from a single, highly concentrated region, the alluvial riverbeds of India. Organized extraction along the Krishna, Godavari, and Penna rivers in what is now Andhra Pradesh and Telangana dates back to approximately 700 BC. To the ancient world, these stones had nothing to do with marriage or courtship. They were prized for their raw physical properties, unmatched hardness, and a cold, piercing brilliance. Ancient Indian texts describe the stones as powerful talismans of strength, protection, and spiritual endurance. When European awareness grew through classical writers and later travelers like Marco Polo, the stones retained this mystical aura. The Greeks called the gem adamas, meaning invincible, believing it could ward off poisons, cure illnesses, and shield soldiers in battle. Because of this, diamonds belonged strictly to the realms of royalty, mysticism, and high-state prestige. An ordinary person would never propose with a diamond. The stone was far too rare, far too expensive, and carried zero romantic significance. For centuries, this tiny, restricted supply kept the diamond's elite status secure in the treasuries of European monarchs and Eastern emperors. This aura of absolute rarity survived intact for generations, sustained by the natural limits of the Indian River deposits. But in the late 19th century, a massive geological discovery in the South African dirt shattered this economy and threatened to make the world's most invincible stone virtually worthless. Before the South African mines upended global markets, the diamond's connection to marriage hung on a single, isolated historical event. In 1477, Archduke Maximilian of Austria presented Mary of Burgundy with a gold band set with flat, thin pieces of diamond spelling out the letter M. Modern advertising often points to this moment as the birth of the diamond engagement ring. In reality, this was a high society anomaly, not the start of a broader social custom. During the medieval period, wealthy couples actually favored vibrant sapphires and rubies to mark their betrothals. Maximilian's gift was a personal, highly unusual courtly gesture, far removed from the lives of ordinary citizens. For the next 4 centuries, diamond engagement rings remained almost entirely non-existent for the general public. Average couples exchanged simple bands of iron, leather, or even paper. The precious stones stayed locked away in royal vaults, completely out of reach for the rising merchant classes. But this carefully guarded elite scarcity was about to face an unprecedented threat in the dirt of a South African farm. In 1869, a Griqua herdsman walking near Hopetown, South Africa, picked up an unusually heavy, glittering pebble from the dirt. It was an 83.5 carat rough diamond, soon dubbed the Star of South Africa. That single find sparked a chaotic land rush, drawing thousands of prospectors to the yellow clay of Kimberley. Within years, workers were hand-excavating the big hole, stripping away the earth to pull out diamonds by the literal ton. For centuries, the global trade relied on a few kilograms of Indian River stones. Now, a massive flood of gems threatened to swamp the market. Under normal economic laws of supply and demand, this sudden abundance should have triggered an absolute price collapse. The illusion of natural rarity vanished. If anyone could buy a diamond, the stone would lose its prestige, its power, and its price tag. The entire industry faced complete ruin, unless someone could control the flood. To prevent the market from drowning in its own abundance, the mine owners needed a single, ruthless hand to choke the supply. In 1888, Cecil Rhodes merged his holdings with his chief rival, Barney Barnato, establishing De Beers Consolidated Mines Limited. By the following year, this new entity controlled roughly 90% of the world's rough diamond production. Rhodes had turned a chaotic land rush into a highly organized, singular channel of distribution. The mechanics of the monopoly were simple but devastatingly effective. De Beers constructed massive, high-security vaults in London and Johannesburg. Instead of shipping every newly unearthed gem to market, the company locked them away. By systematically stockpiling tons of rough diamonds, De Beers engineered a permanent illusion of scarcity. The public was never allowed to see just how plentiful these glittering stones had actually become. Prices remained artificially high because the cartel decided exactly how many diamonds crossed the counter and when. But holding back the stones was only half the battle. To keep the prices climbing, De Beers had to make sure the public actually wanted them. By the early 1930s, that desire had evaporated. The Great Depression left millions of Americans struggling for basic necessities, turning diamonds into an irrelevant, outdated luxury. Wholesale prices plummeted 42% in just 3 years. While the vaults in London and Johannesburg groaned under the weight of tons of glittering, unsold inventory, De Beers realized that locking the stones away was no longer enough. If people refused to buy, the illusion of scarcity collapsed. In 1938, Harry Oppenheimer decided to stop fighting the market and start rewriting human psychology. He bypassed traditional diamond dealers and traveled to New York to hire the advertising agency N.W. Ayer and Son. The objective was not to sell a product, but to construct an entirely new belief system around marriage itself. In 1938, N.W. Ayer and Son began a campaign to alter human behavior on a massive scale. The agency bypassed the physical properties of the stone, selling emotional necessity instead. They placed diamond rings on the fingers of Hollywood stars, ensuring millions of women saw their idols draped in this new luxury. Next, they seeded romantic stories into the press, framing the size of a gem as the ultimate measure of devotion. Elegant, hand-painted advertisements depicted wealthy couples, establishing a new social expectation. The diamond was now the only acceptable proof of commitment. Then, in 1947, a young copywriter named Francis Garrity scribbled 4 words on a piece of paper: "A diamond is forever." This single phrase turned a common mineral into an eternal symbol of love, successfully converting a corporate survival strategy into a timeless moral obligation. In the 1930s, De Beers codified romance into a concrete financial formula, running advertisements that introduced the 1-month salary guideline. By the 1980s, the cartel pushed the American benchmark to 2 months, teaching men exactly how much to spend and women what they should expect. De Beers then exported this social training globally. In 1967, fewer than 5% of Japanese engagements involved diamonds. Partnering with the advertising agency Dentsu, the cartel introduced an even steeper 3-month salary rule. By 1981, 60% of Japanese brides wore diamonds, adopting a corporate sales quota as a sacred national tradition. The moment a buyer steps out of a jewelry store, the illusion of investment evaporates. A newly purchased diamond ring immediately loses 50 to 80% of its retail value. Because retailers apply massive markups, secondary market buyers will only offer 20 to 50% of the original price. The physical stone possesses no natural scarcity to support its retail price tag. Yet every weekend, thousands of couples still hand over months of hard-earned savings, convinced that this 20th century marketing blueprint is a timeless, sacred tradition. Today, we buy the illusion anyway. Knowing the history does not stop us from trading months of salary for a common stone. De Beers did not just sell a product, they colonized our deepest emotions. The ultimate marketing triumph is when the lie becomes indistinguishable from love. Drop your thoughts below.